Welcome to the Queer Confidence Podcast, the podcast to help you become your most confident queer self. I'm your host, he, she, they, Coach Alex Ray, and I haven't always been this confident. In fact, I used to be super insecure. And through this show, I want to share with you what's worked for me, my clients, and my guests so that you can become more confident. Hello, my unicorns. Welcome back. Today, I have a really fun special guest for you. Joining me on the podcast today is Alex Hall, aka The Bottoms Digest.
Howdy. I love that you call your audience unicorns. That's so beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, clearly there's a theme here.
Right. I love it.
Yes. Thank you for being on the podcast today. I'm really excited to have you and to talk about all things bottoming.
My favorite topic. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Do you like that topic?
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
If you haven't gathered.
Right. I'm all about the unicorns. You're all about peaches.
Yeah, asses. And asses all around.
How did you get into this, Alex? Like, how did you create the Bottoms Digest?
Yeah, so I actually love telling this story because it's I was working in reproductive rights for 5 years, and I actually thought of the idea when I was living in New York City, and I kind of was like, okay, I can't be in politics forever. Like, what is going to be the next thing that I do? What is something I love to do? And I was legit just cooking in my apartment, and I was changing up my diet when I lived in New York because it was so expensive to buy meat all the time. So I was like starting to do a more plant-based diet, and getting a lot. Funny enough, after years of research, I started to find out that I was getting a lot of plant diversity in my diet. But at the time, I didn't really know that. And I really started to notice how it was affecting bowel movements in the bathroom, how it was affecting prepping for bottoming in the best way possible. And I legit was just like cooking in my kitchen one day, which in New York City, it's like almost unheard of that anyone would cook for themselves.
Right.
And I was cooking in like my 20 square foot kitchen, and it kind of just like light bulb moment for me where I was like, oh my God, I really just want to start like sharing like cooking tips and dietary tips and all this stuff with people that want to bottom, because there's this whole stigma that you have to starve before bottoming. And that's not something I've ever done. And I've been bottoming since I was 17.
Yeah, I've never done that either. And I've heard that only like more recently people have shown me memes with that. And I was like, oh my God, wait, that's a thing. Who's been doing that?
Yeah, and it's like, I get that some of it's a joke, but it's such clickbait. And if you're like 17 watching that for the first time, you might think that that's the norm, or that's standard, that you have to do that. So fast forward like a year, I came up with the idea, but I didn't act on it because I lived in a tiny ass New York City apartment. And I was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to film this in here. And then COVID happened. So I'm actually from Houston, Texas, but I moved to Austin, Texas, because my best friend was there, and I started it out there. And I remember posting like the trailer on TikTok and just disappearing for like a week. And when I came back, I had like 50,000 followers with no other videos. And I was like, okay, well, there's obviously a need for this. So yeah, that's kind of like how it started. And it started as a plant-based, like how to eat a little more plant-based, a little less meat and all that stuff. But we're over 2 years old now, and we've learned a lot now, especially from other scientists and doctors and stuff, that every body is so unique that we can kind of start to just play around with all kinds of cooking. But also we've like pivoted into sex ed too, which has been super fun. And it's honestly what's been making us even bigger. So it's evolved.
Yeah. I think it was a friend that actually sent me one of your videos on Instagram, like one of your reels about bottoming and douching and the amount of water to douche, because a lot of us have used too much before in the past. Yeah. And it was funny because he sent it to me. He goes, hey, this reminds me of you, because I had someone share an infographic with me about why you don't need to use that much water, because I had been using too much water, and making things worse. And then it was taking me forever to douche.
Yeah. And especially depends on like the equipment you're taking. Like if your partner has a big penis or like bigger than average is what I mean by that. So like over like 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Even then my husband has an 8 inch penis and I still douche using less water and less tip. And it's just been magnificent. I've been doing that for years and years and
Yeah.
years. Because I actually never douched until I was like 23.
I didn't
Uh,
douche until like 2020.
Oh my God. And like when you watch the episode of where they talk
Uh-huh.
about bottoming, which they talk about it for 20 seconds, Trixie talks about how she didn't douche until she was in her 20s.
Uh-huh.
Um and I remember like the time it happened where I didn't douche and this guy was such an asshole about it. And
Mm-hmm.
me being 22, 23 or whatever, like a young gay instead, I was just like, oh shit, I need to start doing this, blah, blah, blah. I went and bought that giant douche that everyone buys the first time.
Which
And
what what
I
color
don't,
was yours?
it was just a giant black one with like a
Okay.
giant black tip. And I just remember it like ruining sex for me for like a full year. Like it just made
Mm,
things worse. It was so much water, all
yeah.
this stuff. And then I just kind of over the years stopped using so much. And then when I started the Mom's Digest, I started working with GI doctors that really taught me the anatomy of why you don't need so much water and so much of the tip, and also how
Okay.
it's really bad for your gut microbiome long term, anyways, to be doing that.
Okay, wait. You have to like slow down and tell people about all of this now because I
Right.
guarantee there are others listening right now. They're like, "What?" They're hearing this for the first time. And again, you all, that's why we're doing this episode, and this is why this. I'm so glad to have Alex on the podcast, and why you need to go follow his work on Instagram because what they're doing is it is so needed. No one wants to really talk about this stuff in the graphic way, the honest way that we're going to be talking
Right.
about it today. So, like, listen up if you've been kind of wondering and feeling a little nervous about learning too much, like I did just a few years ago. This episode is for you.
Mm,
So,
ain't it though? Seriously, I grew up in Texas where there's like honestly no even hetero sex ed, let alone queer sex ed.
mm-hmm.
So when I was working in reproductive rights, that's when I really was like, okay, I love that I'm doing this, but I want to be doing something for my community also.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started doing this because I was like, okay, honestly, I'm a huge slut. I have so many amazing tips that have helped me over 10 years. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I've also learned so much through my connections with these GI doctors and stuff. But what I was talking about with overdouching, like when you when you douche, especially with tap water, you are disrupting the mucus lining in your rectum that is naturally there that helps things move along through your system. So when
Mm-hmm.
you over douche, you're actually just making things harder long term. And
And when
you
you
have
say overdouche, do you mean just that one time, like you're using too much water, or do you mean in the long term, like if you're douching every day?
I'm in douching every day. Like
There we go.
if you're doing it like every day, multiple times a day, and people are like, well, I don't. Why would you ever? Well, I'm talking about like OnlyFans sex workers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That does happen, and that's the other part is like this is really nuanced. I think a lot of times people can't think outside the box of other people's experiences with
Right.
bottoming. They're like I just said when people are like, well, why would I ever douche every day? It's like, well, there are sex workers out there that do need to figure out things. And it's just
Yeah.
something you need to navigate. So that's why it's much safer to use less water and less of the tip because you're disrupting things no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Meaning that less, you don't have to shove that douche all the way into
Oh my
your
God.
butthole. Like,
Seriously.
yeah.
It goes past, so poop is stored in the sigmoid colon, which is past the curve in your colon.
Mm-hmm.
And when you shove that giant tip, which funny enough, a lot of those douches are actually vaginal douches, and the buyer at sex shops just doesn't know the difference when they buy them.
Really?
Yeah, that's why a lot of them are so big because a lot of times they're vaginal douches and to begin with. And
I got my
uh,
first one at CVS. It was like for
yeah,
just for like constipation, just this like
yeah, the fleas.
horrible, like thick. rubber blue bulb that
Oh
just,
yeah,
it was,
it's getting
yeah,
medical. It's getting medical
absolutely.
grade.
Yeah.
Like, for real. Like they just when you shove that giant thing up there, it shoots water past the curve in your colon and it
Hmm.
goes into areas no penis was ever going to get. Now fisting is like its own ball game for
Yeah.
sure, but with having regular sex, like it's not going to get in there. So
Hmm.
it can maybe tap in there, but when you are dumping a gallon of water in your sigmoid colon, there's almost that's why the water never feels like it's getting clean because you've gone too far.
Hmm. And now you've disrupted everything past that curve, and now everything has to come out before it's
And
ever
now
going to be clean.
everything, and that takes a long time. And
Yeah.
and that's where the over douching, like you're really disrupting that mucus lining, you're really disrupting your regularity, your
Hmm.
body, like the natural rhythms of your body. Like if you know you go take a bowel movement every morning, you are potentially disrupting that by over douching all the time because your body's getting all these different signals than what it had before. So there's a lot of consequences to overdoing it.
Mm. Um, so what would you say to someone that I guess is like trying this for the first time? Let's like rewind even and like what are the
Yes.
like the basics that someone needs to know for the first time that they're going to try douching to bottom? They may be like either of us who bottomed plenty of times before we ever douched, and now
Honestly,
they're like, well, it wasn't a horrible disaster. Like, I don't,
seriously.
what do I do now?
So there's a couple things. Obviously, if you're going to douche, we'll get into that. But like fiber supplements cannot be understated. Like
Hmm.
they really, really help things along because if you have a natural bowel movement in the morning and it's you're one of those people that goes to wipe and the toilet paper is clean because your fiber game is so strong, like you're pretty much set. Like
Hmm.
you could maybe use a bidet to rinse off, but like there's almost like no residue in your colon if you're going to wipe and there's nothing there because you are getting enough fiber. But when you take fiber supplements, you have to work into that. You can't just go willy nilly right into taking 3 times a day, 4 fiber supplements or whatever. You have to work into it because you're actually going to make yourself more constipated if you take too much fiber
Mm.
in the beginning. But straight up psyllium husk, none. You don't need any of the like queer marketed fiber supplements just for bottoming. You just need plain Jane psyllium husk powder or like fiber supplements that you can get giant like tubs of for like 10, $15. I have like the most generic psyllium husk capsules.
Where do you get this? Is it like on Amazon? Where do you typically get yours?
I got these. Funny enough, I got these when I was in LA because I always take fiber supplements when I'm traveling because traveling can be very disruptive to people's like regularity and all that. So when you have fiber supplements on you, I actually just worked with Dope Kitchen, Nicole at Dope Kitchen. Her account is phenomenal if no one is following her right now. But she has like 1 million followers on TikTok. She's got like 200,000 on Instagram, but she's a good friend of mine. And she's been traveling a lot for like travel blogging. That's kind of what she's working into.
Okay.
And I gave her my fiber supplement tips for traveling, and she texted me and was like, "Oh my god, this was iconic. I am actually having regular bowel movements when I'm traveling now." I'm
Oh
like,
my God, that's fantastic.
so that's kind of key if you're like starting with bottoming is like knowing your regularity. Like, do you poop in the morning? Do you poop at night? Are you a person that poops every other day? Like, that's super important to know
Hmm.
your natural regularity. And if you know that you're not very regular and you're kind of struggling to have good bowel movements in general, it's time to start introducing a fiber supplement like
Mm.
today. You don't need the overpriced ones for real. And the ones that I bought, to answer your question, I got in LA at like a Walgreens. I just got a big bottle of psyllium husk capsules
Okay.
and it was like $25 for like 3 months.
Oh my God, I love it. I have
So
definitely been using the one marketed to the gays,
yeah,
and may switch over now.
yeah, it's the same. Like there's no such thing as bad fiber, but for a lot of people, I always especially for my audience, I think that's why people love my channel so much is accessibility is number one priority. So
Yes.
I can't speak to everyone and assume what your lifestyle is like, but I can assume that we can try to get the most cheap product in front of you that works just as well, if not better.
Mm.
But every GI doctor I've ever worked with recommends pure psyllium husk, not proprietary blend fiber supplements. um,
Fabulous.
so that's the best one. And then I guess if you're going to douche, just less is more for real. Like if you have a big douche, use
Mm-hmm.
less of the tip and less of the water. If you don't have a douche yet, you could go buy a DU. Their douches are amazing. They don't push extra air in you. They
Oh.
look they look bigger than they are too, because they have a valve inside that the contraption that makes the air not get pushed in you. And they're also trans owned, queer owned douche company. We love that. So
Okay.
yeah.
We're totally linking all of these up in the show notes for sure.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, do is a great. And they're like I would use that because you can use it standing up. A lot of rookie mistakes are people they'll try to douche in all kinds of crazy angles and like on all fours, laying on their side, all this thing. I'm like, you're tipping the water into your sigmoid colon. So try
Wait,
to
you're not supposed to do a handstand while you
no,
douche? I've been doing it
absolutely
wrong.
not.
Shit.
Absolutely not. You don't want to slip and break your neck. That's not a good douching 101. How are you going to suck dick
Damn
with a
it.
broken neck? Yeah, and it's like not going to work out. So, yeah, I think those are some like top tier tips. I know that sounds like overwhelming, but I just was like word vomiting as much information as possible on those two avenues of fiber and using a good douche and using less water.
Awesome. Do you have any infographics on your site or on Instagram or anything that you've posted that we can link up in the show notes to show people what we're talking about with the bend and the colon and what they're really going for?
Yeah, so I have some videos on my TikTok and my Instagram. I will make some infographics for y'all because I've been actually doing that more. I just came out with a carousel on Thursday on how to loosen up better for bottoming using butt plugs, and that was like an
Okay. I
infographic
love that
carousel.
one.
Oh yeah, it was and it did super well because there's obviously like a need for these. And I used to be a graphic designer when I worked at Reproductive Right organization. So
Awesome.
um, I've been using that now to like make these. So yeah, I do have some videos on my channels about talking about why overdouching is a problem, and I show the colon diagram with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll make some more stagnant ones for sure as well.
Amazing. So then I'll link that up in the show notes too, and everyone can you all can enjoy a little visual of what your body looks like on the inside.
Yes, I have all kinds of videos. I talk about why coffee makes you have to run to the bathroom. I talk about loosening up before bottoming. I talk about literally all of it. So, and then also fun recipes.
Yeah. You really have everything. I feel like you're the whole suite of everything anyone
The
could
whole,
ever want or yes, the whole
the whole suite. Mm.
of anything anyone could ever want for bottoming.
That's kind of the goal is like it started as a recipe channel, and as time has gone on, I started actually debunking shower douches and I started debunking like over douching and all that. And that stuff started to take off. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing sex ed content also.
Yeah.
So now it's more like 40-60, where it's like 40% recipes, 60% sex ed stuff, especially as the recipe content is becoming more like everybody's body is different. So
Mm-hmm.
my recipe content lately is like make this thing, listen to your body, know what to swap out instead of
Mm-hmm.
like this is a bottom friendly dish, because I've learned a lot over the last 2 years and there is honestly no secret anymore. In the beginning I was like, oh, plant-based, dairy-free, all that. Now I'm learning like some people can truly eat pounds of dairy and be ready to go. And so we can't really say that anymore. We have to be like, listen to your body, make fajitas without the onion. If you're sensitive to onion, like don't give up a dish because there's one ingredient in it. That's kind of the new angle.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant.
Thank you. Trying to be accessible to people, meet them where they're at.
Yeah, and also not, I think that's something that we do a lot in, it's like any kind of industry, maybe the commonality is social media, I don't know, but just the generalization of advice where it's just, oh hey, this
Yeah.
is the truth, you have to do this, and no
Yeah.
matter who you are, instead of really meeting people where they're at with, hey, you know your body really well, you've kind of had it your whole life, and
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
lived in your body, so why don't you
Yeah.
also bring your knowledge.
Mira Bellwether, the trans sex educator that passed away, I think last year actually. They their zine fucking trans women is a huge inspiration to me. And in the beginning of fucking trans women, there is like a quote about how sex ed is like it's like a cookbook, and how there are recipes that we trade off. We're sharing recipes, but you don't have to follow my recipe. You can change
Mm,
the recipe. And I was like, that's iconic, because I'm literally doing that with recipes and sex ed. Is like, here's the guidelines. Here are some like healthy things that are way healthier than starving yourself and overdouching because some
yeah.
toxic queen on Instagram told you to do that. So, like, here's this, but at the end of the day, listen to your body and do what's best for you, is kind of just the gold.
Yeah. Also, by the way, if you eat a breakfast sandwich, it's not coming out your butthole 7 hours
No,
later.
no, for
Like,
real.
that is
It's
not how the body works. So,
it's not.
starving yourself would only work if you did it for like many days until you
Yeah.
no longer had to poop anymore.
It's
So,
it's wild that we have to talk about this all the time. I'm like, I mean, I understand that people with IBS are definitely a little different, but even then, when they're eating something that's disrupting things, it's not that food ending up at the end of their rectum right away.
right.
Um, so it's kind of wild that we have to like remind people all the time, like, hey, you don't digest food in 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's why actually my channel focuses on bloating and gas the most, because that's, again, the whole point of bottom digest is to really center bottom people that want to bottoms comfort and pleasure, because for so long it felt like the top was always centered. Like, is the top feeling good? Is the top getting what they want? Is the top not having to deal with messes? Like, fuck that. Like, I want to know if I'm feeling good. Bottoming is not supposed to be painful. It's supposed to feel incredible, like all these things. And when you eat something that makes you bloated or gassy, that's a way quicker effect from eating something than passing it 24 or
Mm.
48 hours later. You can get gassy from something within 30 minutes of eating it. And the point isn't to be embarrassed about farts happening in the bedroom or something. The point is it's going to be kind of painful when you're bottoming, and the whole point of bottoming is for you to really enjoy it. So that's kind of where it's all at. This isn't a diet. It's just about navigating foods that agree with your body, so that you know you can go in. Like, I just did a video about, I this guy did a video talking about bottom diet, the girl diet trend that was going around. Like,
I actually don't know if I know
or
about this.
or
Tell me.
I'm sorry, it's a girl dinner or whatever they were saying.
No,
Well,
what
this
is that?
I don't actually know, but it was like a trend that was happening, and people were just
Okay.
joking about all these different things. And this guy on TikTok did bottom dinner, and it was just a cup of ice water. And I stitched it, and it went kind of viral. It's got like 500,000 views on Instagram right now. But
Oh my God.
um, I just was like, the other day I had fried chicken and had sex with my husband 20 minutes later. So it's really just about knowing your body. And it really like popped off, because it really is like, you can sometimes eat things like that if you know that your body's cool with it. But
Mm-hmm.
there's only one way to find out, and it's trial and error.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, everybody's different, and like I can eat pounds of meat. Like when I used to really be trying to pack on muscle, I used to eat more than a pound of chicken every day,
Wow.
and at least half a pound of beef every day, and had no issues. And then with the increase in fat in my diet recently, that's what does it for me. Is
Yeah.
if I have too high of a fat content in my diet, it definitely makes a big difference for me. So fiber supplements really help
Hmm.
balance that out.
Yeah, it's all about balance. Like, whenever I tell people, there you're taking fiber supplements to make up for the lack of fiber in something you ate. They're like that's as simple as it is. And
Yeah.
meat has zero. There's zero fiber in meat. But Tim Spector is a epidemiologist. I am obsessed with him. He is a phenomenal scientist that is doing groundbreaking work on the gut microbiome. And he has an organization called Zoe, ZOE, and they actually have a muffin kit that they'll send you that when you eat it, it's gluten free, dairy free, like free of everything so that anyone can eat it really. It's nut
Okay.
free. And when you eat it, it passes through your system and it turns your poop blue so that you can measure how fast food is moving through you so that you know how healthy your gut microbiome is currently.
No
Uh,
way.
yeah, it's like fierce, honestly. And but he's also one of these people that's out there saying like it's all about plant diversity. The happiest gut on the planet has plant diversity. So like when you're buying a bell pepper, buy a yellow and an orange bell pepper because
Mm.
you already have two new plants instead of one. And there's all kinds of ways to really make your gut health a lot happier by just introducing plant diversity. But a lot of people will DM me all the time being like, so is bottom friendly just vegan? And I'm like, absolutely not. It just is what your body agrees with. And fiber is not a bottom secret. Like everyone should be getting a lot of fiber. And it's something like more than half of the people in the world don't get enough fiber. It's like a crazy statistic. Um, but it's just getting a fiber supplement is really key. And there's no such thing as bad fiber for real.
How would someone know if they're getting enough fiber or not enough fiber?
Right. So that's the tricky thing.
We know
um,
it has to be a black and white answer that everyone can
I
apply.
know, right?
No gray
It's
area.
when I tell people that they have to do a little work, they like want to scream. I'm like, well, you have to like
Mhm.
measure it. You have to like either keep it in your phone or you need to like use an app and like track your fiber. Because when you use like an app like that MyFitnessPal one or whatever,
Yeah.
if you put in like I ate 200 grams of broccoli, it's going to tell you in the app how much fiber that 200
Mhm.
grams of broccoli has. But when you're taking fiber supplements, especially like let's assume you've worked up to it and you can take the max dosage of fiber supplements, and that's going to be different for each brand and bottle. So, but for my brand and bottle, it's 4 supplements 3 times a day. So I take that breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I just have a reminder that goes off at 9 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m.
Mhm.
And that alone is ensuring that I'm getting enough. Because after years of a pretty consistent way of eating, I know that I'm getting at least half of my fiber from the food I'm eating throughout the day, and I'm making up the other half with supplements. But
Got it.
you have to you have to do that. It's like a lot of people that start counting macros when they're like leaning out or bulking up or anything, and then after a while they get so used to how they eat and what they do all the time that they don't have to count macros anymore. They just know at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's similar. So you just got to get in the habit of it, and then you know if you're getting it or not.
You feel it in your
Yeah,
body.
yeah. When you go to the bathroom, you'll know if you didn't get
Yes.
enough. Is it runny diarrhea or are you having a nice firm bulky stool?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Um I want to switch things a little bit here and get back to the sex ed portion and just talk with people a little bit about what happens if things do get messy.
yeah, so this is one of my favorite topics, honestly. Um, First off, I think there's something really beautiful about leading with expectations. Like, if you're not feeling good or something feels a little off, I think that personally, there's nothing wrong with telling the person, even if it's a hookup,
Mhm.
hey, I have IBS. Hey, I'm feeling a little off right now. We can still go for it, but I just want you to know. And then that right away, I think, inoculates the whole situation. If people would just be a little more open from the very
Mhm.
beginning. Um, and I think that when there is a mess, one, we need to stop saying sorry about it. Like, we just need to stop that right away.
It's kind of my philosophy has always been like it's kind of what happens. You're sticking a dick in a butthole. Like
Yes, yes. And it's been
that.
happening for like thousands of years.
Right.
So I'm like, Alexander the Great was into butt play. You know that these like emperors and shit were into butt
Hmm.
play. They did not have the things to clean out. So like, do you think Alexander the Great was apologizing for messes in the bedroom? I doubt it. So again, when there's a mess, it's usually not very much, too, funny enough. It's usually so little.
Hmm.
And I think just not apologizing and being like, oh, do you want to move into the shower? Or the top, whoever's topping, I don't like using top and bottom as nouns as too much. I like to try to use it as a verb as much as possible.
Yeah.
Whoever's topping, there's a great opportunity there to ask the person bottoming, like, how are you feeling? Do you feel like we can keep going? Do you want to move into the shower? Do you need a break? Like
Hmm.
communication. And again, even if it's a hookup, you can totally be doing that. But
Hmm.
I think just opening up right away with expectations of this is an asshole, this is a butt, there's one function that this butt actually does. We found this other feature
Right.
which is super fun, but it's not its primary like evolutionary reason for being around. So
Right.
um it is kind of wild that we just apologize and get all freaked out and all that, but it's because there's so much shame around it. So stop apologizing and just say literally shit happens. And if the person starts to shame you in that moment, like the person topping, and they're like, oh, that's fucking gross, oh, that, kick their ass out. I know that sounds easier said than done, but like they need to go.
Hmm.
Or if you feel like being a saint, I guess you could take that time to educate that person on why shaming someone over a body function is ridiculous. But I personally would not waste my time with that and would kick them out. And you can send them to my channel and tell them to go watch it if you really want to save yourself some time.
There you go.
But it's just as simple as communicating. It really
Yeah.
is. And I think so many people are afraid to do that, even if they want to be like a pound town bathhouse slut. Like, that's totally cool. But just lead with expectations and tell people how you're feeling, if you need a break. Like, we can't
Yeah.
all be mind readers out here. And I think we all get upset that our minds aren't being read all the time.
Absolutely. And as someone who had several has had even after douching
Yeah.
several encounters where like and by several I mean like 20, 30, many encounters where it's not clean even if I thought
Yeah.
it was, or it old me pre 2020 was like just ignoring it
Yeah.
and like if we just don't talk about it maybe it won't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
um what do you do, the I guess, how do you talk with that person about it in a way? I mean, I get what you're saying around, yes, there's no shame to be had, but I think a lot of people still they hear it and it's sort of in one ear and out the other, or it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that would be nice to not be shameful about it, but I genuinely feel horrible when I get a mess on the bed, or whoever's topping me is got messy and then they're like upset with me. Like, what are some more kind of like mindset tricks or like practical tips that people can start using to address that?
Letting go of control is
Mm,
a good one because you can't control everything. And like you just said, there are times where you can douche, 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 douche. Everything's coming out clean. You feel great. And then you bottom and there's a mess, anyways.
yeah.
That's like poetry, honestly. Like, no matter how much you plan and work to do stuff, life is going to happen. So I think like when it does happen, and also knowing that a mess is going to happen again, like it's going to happen for all of us.
Absolutely.
Just letting go of that control and knowing that that's not what this is about. I'm here to have sex and enjoy myself and feel all that. And what happens. We'll cross that bridge if we have to. There's so much like anxiety too, which is funny enough, very anti-bottom friendly. like anxiety is a huge boner kill. It can also really fuck up your digestive system and stress and all that.
Mm,
So, but yeah, it's just like letting go of that control because there's nothing you can do there about that. And, starting to look for tools. I know there's not a ton out there about destigmatizing the shame around poop in the bedroom, but you can start to do research on like the kind of shame you experience and like maybe some tools that will help debunk those shameful feelings. Maybe you already have a therapist too, and you can talk to your therapist about maybe there's a deeper issue there that you're feeling embarrassed about something that's out of your control. Like there's just something there. So your therapist can give you a lot of tools too about shame and how to fight it back with it and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you also can't control how someone else is going to react and tell you like what they're feeling. Like again, if the top was being a total dickhead about it or anything. And again, that's just something you're gonna have to sometimes let go, is like you can't control how that person is being also. So those are some tips. I know, like, again, this is a nuanced topic. There's a lot of situations that can happen. So, and that's why I just try to always say the leading with expectations part, because to me, that is, you're already opening the door for like further communication if you do need to talk about things or anything like that. But I think it's because we, as a society, learned so much of our sex ed from porn, especially queer people. Yeah. And in porn, there are zero messes. But when you talk to the porn stars that are in it or the producers that make it, there are tons of messes, like tons and tons and tons. Like I've been loving watching some of the porn star TikToks recently. I can't think of too many in their names right now, but there's actually 2 porn producers that were like big in the game a while ago. And they always talk about that kind of stuff about like, yes, in porn, it's squeaky clean, but in reality, like we had to stop that scene like 5 times or because there was a mess. So it's remembering that like what you're seeing on porn and this expectation that you've set for sex is never going to happen because it doesn't actually happen that way to begin with.
Right.
So, but
only if you have a time machine.
Only if you have a time machine.
Right.
And that, no.
Which is what, I mean, that's what they're doing in porn. They're just like, oh, let's chop before and chop after. And then, oh, look, that whole chunk of time never existed. And
it's the same thing with OnlyFans. They a lot of the times they will stop the scene. There's a reason there's a nice little transition in the middle. Like it's all produced. And we have to remember that because for decades now, as a community, especially gay men in the queer community, have only gotten our sex ed this way. And we see this stuff and we're like, damn, I have to be ripped just to even qualify to have sex. Oh, I have to be super fit just to do that. And then on top of that, you're putting this pressure that doesn't need to exist on top of another pressure of like, okay, and then it's got to be perfectly clean. Oh, and then we got to come at the same time. And it's like,
yeah,
it's not happening. I'm sorry. Like,
and the more pressure you put on yourself, the more anxious you're going to feel, the less comfortable that experience is going to be, the more stress you're going to create in your life, like all. And then that also affects your bowel movements. So it all comes full circle.
It really does. So like, it's really just like rethinking what sex is and like going back to step 1, because we are all misguided and misled and have been for a long time about what it is. So it's what you're having in the bedroom when there's an accident and things are getting real and all that, that is actually real sex.
Yeah.
So you're experiencing the real deal, not the studio produced, not very well paid deal.
I love that reminder. And I'm going to link in the show notes a couple previous episodes for any of you who are new. I've got lots of episodes on shame and how to deal with the mindset stuff here. So those will be down there if you want some more tips for the mindset of what the fuck do I do when it's a mess and I'm embarrassed. Any other tips for making bottoming just a fantastic experience?
Loosen up. Seriously. Like I feel like when I started dating my now husband, he is packing, and I'm sure he like loves that I'm talking about this right now. He does not, fun fact. But I have to use him as an example because for a long time people were like, oh, you've never experienced a big dick then. And I'm like, okay, finally, I have to let the cat out of the bag. My husband is like the biggest penis I've ever had in my life. And I'm married to him. So I have to like navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started dating him, when I actually started doing the proper work to loosen up the real way, not with poppers and stuff, I was having the best sex of my life to this day. I swear to God, every time we have sex, it only gets better because I take the time to do some of the prep work that doesn't take that long to
Mm.
begin with. So I just did that carousel, like I said, about loosening up with butt plugs. And I
Yeah.
do it in a holistic way because if you're going to take the time to do this, you might as well make it really sexy for yourself and really like make it really intimate for yourself. So like I will put in a butt plug and I will go and do like a child's pose and do the deepest breathing of my life until I
Mm-hmm.
quite literally feel my asshole loosen up around the toy. Like you will feel like it's melting on the toy. And that's when you know that
Mm.
you've actually loosened up. Dr. Carlton, who's a GI doctor that I consult with all the time, he has an amazing technique called the butt clock technique, where you put a finger in and you push the finger up to 12 o'clock for 30 seconds breathing. You push your finger over for 3 to 3 o'clock. It's pinned at the top of his Instagram too.
Okay.
Um, Trust me, I asked him to pin it there and I just share it all the time. But that is an incredible technique because your sphincter needs to loosen up. Some of y'all are, there are too many bottoms that I know that think they've been bottoming for like a decade and they think it's supposed to kind of hurt. And that is not the case. That is a very sensitive area that you were packing things into. And the funny thing about it is it's also your asshole is your rectum and your asshole, your sphincter and all that. They're all muscles.
Mm.
And it's the same as doing a workout. Like your muscle's going to be tight afterwards, after you've worked it out. You have to loosen it back up. You have to stretch things out. You need to be getting enough water so that your muscle is pliable and can be stretched.
Right. Also,
So
these muscles are like constantly tight by default in order to
yes,
like, so we don't just shit our pants all day.
yes, honestly, like your body doesn't want like critters coming in there either and stuff like,
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, I think a lot of people, again, because that's something else that's skipped in porn. We don't see them loosening up the whole because they absolutely do more loosening work in porn than we ever see. Some of those guys wear a dildo in their ass all day
Mm.
to prep for a scene. And because we don't see that in porn, we think that we can just spit on a dick and go right into it.
Right.
And again, like, why is it not working out for me? Because you're not doing the holistic prep work that is actually required. So loosening up is so key, and it can easily, just starting with box breathing is like my number one tip. And then you can start to do prostate stimulators, butt plugs, fingers, the butt clock technique. But just starting with like deep breathing, which is why I'm coming out with a pelvic floor program, because pelvic floor program or pelvic floor exercises and Pilates and all that, it can really be super beneficial to your whole anal area, and how it can really make sex game changing. Because once you finally loosen up, when you start riding a penis, if you know how to clench and release your sphincter because you have that mind body connection now, like
Mm-hmm.
things are about to be unreal for you and your partner.
So good.
It's my favorite. And also, that's another way to loosen up when you're taking a big package. If you get on it after you've done all the work to loosen up and you start doing squeeze and release techniques around your partner's penis, you have just primed your whole anus for taking that thing, no matter how long it's going to be, how long the time is going to be, all that. You've just done like, just the work there is like, you can't even put a value to that. So in my regard, in my opinion, you just can't.
Yeah. Mm. I really want to ask you too about, well, actually, before I do that, any other tips? Because all of those are fantastic. Any other tips before we move on to what you like about bottoming?
I think that's it for the tips off the top
Great.
of my head. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's it. I'm like, I've got like a million.
That's all the tips. That's just the tip of
Mm,
the tips
just the tip, because you're taking
for
more
today.
than just the tip.
Yeah.
That's what I like to say.
um, let's talk about why we love bottoming, because I want
Mm,
to kind of wrap up the episode with just a joyous celebration of bottoming instead of this like,
absolutely.
oh, it's a thing we have to do, or all the stigmas around it that, yeah.
Right. So I love to bottom because it feels really fucking good. I think for again a long time, people assume bottoming is supposed to hurt or it's supposed to hurt a little bit, and it's like, well, maybe when you're 17, losing your virginity or something like
Right.
I was, but now I'm 30, like it should not be hurting anymore. And that doesn't mean you need to be loosey goosey either, but it feels so unreal. And to me, I don't think like cis man has actually come until they have had their prostate hit
Mm.
by a penis
Yeah.
while they're coming and they're having their prostate hit. That is actually a male orgasm, like.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, you just can't top that. I think it just, when I'm doing like reverse cowgirl or riding, that is like the only position that milks me, and I love it.
Mm.
Feels so good. So I know that that's kind of a corny answer to just say it feels fucking good, but that's really the answer. I've topped a million times and it never feels quite as good as bottoming when I've prepped correctly too.
Mm. My favorite part about it is like having an orgasm while being having my prostate stimulated by while getting like pounded in the most like tender, dominant,
Yes.
just delicious way possible. It is the only time I experience the fullest full body orgasm possible,
Mm-hmm.
where like my fingers and toes and every limb is just tingling with.
Yes.
It's almost like they fell asleep, but not painful like that. It's
Right. I
every
always
everything.
I always
It's
feel like my
just
eyes are gonna pop out of my face.
mm,
Like I orgasmed so hard that my eyeballs feel like they want to leave the socket. Like in a not painful way also. Um I love the tender dominating part, like you said. I love
mm-hmm.
that. Some of these people that like to top, y'all need to work on y'all's hip mobility, because we want a little more than just pounding. Like,
Right.
like we
Yeah.
want, you can pound and add a little wave to a little motion to the ocean, as people say. We need a little more of that, but I love that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyone who's only ever exclusively been a top, you've got a lot of tips now too if you'd like to play around and sort of expand your horizons and try it out and see what it can be so that you can also know what you're giving to someone. And for the rest of us, we all enjoy it all.
Right. I was like, and for the rest of us, carry on, you sluts.
Carry
Like,
on, be sluts, have fun, loosen it up a little more. Use the advice from today to make your experiences as enjoyable as possible.
and have fun. This isn't a tax audit. Like,
No.
like have fun, literally loosen up in all regards,
Uh-huh.
because this is not like your 15 minutes of fame one shot.
Hell
Like,
no.
so
And it
just
doesn't have to
chill
be
out.
perfect. Just start using some of these things that just improve your bottoming.
Hmm. I can't think of the website right now, but there's like a lot of ethical porn websites now too, where you can like go watch like what real sex looks like with like real
Mm-hmm.
bodies and like real situations, and communication happening in the bedroom. Can I choke you? That kind of stuff. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff out there. So also, like, leaving SeanCody.com and expanding your horizons could really help.
Yeah. One of them for gay porn is Himeros.
Oh yeah, that's Davey Wavy's
Yep.
porn site. It's actually really, really great.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm not gonna lie. When he was starting a porn company, I was like, I don't know about this, and it's actually pretty iconic, and the
Yeah.
storytelling's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was on the podcast last year, so Go
Oh,
listen to that episode
wow.
if you haven't.
I would love to. I'm also going to listen to your episode about shame because I would love to listen to that and
Awesome.
learn more.
Of course. Okay. I want us to kind of wrap up here with you've got some announcements to make. We've got new Patreon tiers. You've got this public floor program you're talking about. Share it all.
I got lots of things. Although, got to keep expanding our gaping hole, I guess.
Yes.
um, so we got lots of things happening. I'm actually working on a cookbook with a literary manager right now. So that's, those things take a long time, but I'm going to plant that seed now because I love to ask my audience to advice on what kind of book they want. I'm working on a pelvic floor and Pilates exercise program, hoping that comes out fairly soon. And that will also be accessible through my Patreon. I'm coming out with all these new Patreon tiers because I'm starting a Discord called Booty Talk, where we can all just talk in all kinds of different channels, sharing tips, advice, any kind of like sex ed that you didn't get in school while still being in a respectful space. So I'm super excited about that. The Discord I'm actually hoping is done this week. So I got that. And then, things are always changing on my website, thebottomsidejust.com. That's where all my recipes are held. I'm actually going to be coming out. I've done a lot of articles with like Spectrum Boutique, the like sex toy company. I've done an article with Bobby Box, who's an amazing sex educator. I'm about to start housing all of those on my website too, with some sort of diagram situation. So always upgrading and doing more and changing things. But I'm excited about the pelvic floor program more than anything. I used to teach Pilates, fun fact. So
really?
Yeah. I taught it for like 5 seconds because I worked for a gym that has like a sunset kind of name, if you know what I mean. And it's a big gym, but I used to, I got Pilates certified with them and found out that they were donating money to Trump's campaign. So I forfeited my Pilates certification. And now I'm just taking it into my own hands and doing a slutty Pilates workout thing instead. So
love how you repurpose these skills.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I spent $700 for that certification. So I'm definitely going to repurpose this. So yeah, look out for all that. It's going to be super fun and it's going to be very accessible. It's going to be like 15-minute sessions for the most part because
fantastic.
This isn't like a workout all the time. Some of it will be like a straight up Pilates workout because your core strength really does help with bottoming. But yeah, that's the thing I'm honestly the most excited about right now.
I'm totally joining that because I need to do pelvic floor exercises. I like have done a few as in like ever.
Yeah.
And I'm just lazy about it. And I need to like actually get on a consistent routine. I want to get on a consistent routine because I want to make my bottoming sex so much more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Amazing. Okay. So all of that, we're going to link up your website and your social handles in the show notes. You all go, like everything is going to be posted in one of those two or both of those places, right?
Right. Exactly.
There we go. Okay. Fabulous.
Stunning. Oh my God. This was so fun. I hope that everyone has the best bottoming experience after this.
Me too.
Just don't only tell us if it went really well.
Yeah, we expect for perfection.
No.
Despite everything we just said.
No, also if you really want to share some shitty situations that went down, I just told you where that Discord is going to be. So,
is there going to be a spot there for everyone to share their ridiculous stories?
There is. There's going to be, because that's going to help with the shame and destigmatizing these things. It's
it absolutely will.
Oh, this happened to 100 people today.
Right.
Oh, okay. And that's it.
No worries. It's normal. Yeah.
Shit happens.
Shit does happen. All right. Thank you so much for being here on the podcast. I really appreciate it, Alex. It was so great to talk with you.
Yes. Thank you, Alex.
All the Alex energy for you all today. All right, everyone. Love you so much. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend so they too can become more confident. You can also help more people find the show by leaving a 5-star review wherever you listen. And if you want to become a more confident queer with support from yours truly, head to coachalexray.com or use the link down in the show notes. I'm looking forward to working with you.